Today's church tech tip is Ultimate Ears. Joining us today to talk more about this is Tiago Costa. Tiago, welcome to the Tech Arts Podcast.
Thank you.
Hey man, tell us a little bit about Ultimate Ears.
Well, Ultimate Ears is one of the brands that makes in-ear monitors. It's actually the pioneer in the industry. Ultimate Ears started in 1995. Next year, in 2025, we're going to be 30, which is incredible. It started in the back of the tour bus of Van Halen when the engineer Jerry Harvey decided to start creating something so they could use as monitors instead of using the wedges, the traditional floor monitors, and then that's where it started.
So Tiago, did you say it started with Van Halen?
Yes.
That's one of my favorite bands. That's so cool. So Jerry Harvey started that on the tour with Van Halen, kind of figured out.
That is correct. So Jerry was the audio engineer for the band, and then they were realizing that they were overusing their ears with a lot of stage noise and obviously playing rock, and you can imagine, especially way back then, 30 years ago, they were using huge amps on stage and drums, and like everything was really loud. And then they were starting to, it takes a toll when you overuse, exposed to so much noise for a long time. And so they started brainstorming, and then Jerry put the first prototype together, and then from there in 1995, that was I believe in 94. In 1995, Jerry officially opened Ultimate Ears.
Well, what makes Ultimate Ears so special? So, I'm sitting, listening to this podcast. I'm another church. Why should I go in the direction of Ultimate Ears as opposed to one of the hundreds of other in-ear companies that are out there?
That's a great question. Literally, we learned recently that worldwide there are over 300 companies making in-ear monitors. Obviously, a lot of just mom and pop that just start up. They're trying to get off the ground, but there are a lot of people trying into the market. But there are some major players. We all know some other brands out there that are doing a great job. And I usually tell people who come ask me this question, I get asked this question a lot. Like, obviously, we're not the only company that knows how to make in-ear monitors at this point. And when you're choosing an in-ear monitor for you, unless you have some really good critical ear, you're splitting hair in terms of how you choose the right model for you. I really believe the Ultimate Ears creates great product. We have some really good sounding in-ear monitors. We have a series of different models that we have different sound signatures. Each model has a specific sound signature or an EQ profile. So basically, what we sell, any company, not just Ultimate Ears, what we sell to the customer is sound. We sell you how it sounds. Now, obviously, there are a lot of details, technical details, and a lot of people want to know, how many drivers this one has, and they want to compare, how does your triple driver compare to this other brand triple driver? And it's hard to compare because it's not, we're not comparing just the three drivers. We're comparing how they are EQ'd. What is the quality of those drivers? How are they aligned in phase to make sure that they deliver a specific sound signature? So that's what makes everything different. Now, what makes Ultimate Ears different than anybody else at this point is not just the great product that you get. It is, I believe, the service, the customer service, that's what really differentiate Ultimate Ears from anybody else. First of all, obviously, we've been there longer than anybody else. So every major step that happens with in-ear monitors usually happens at Ultimate Ears first. We were the first ones to start doing 3D printing and then we created a technology that allows us to also scan your ears with a 3D scanner. Uh, Obviously, we only have that locally, or when I'm traveling around the country with the scanner, I will scan a worship team or a band somewhere. But it usually when there is happening in terms of innovation, Ultimate Years is ahead of the game. But really the customer service is really amazing. Our turnaround time is usually awesome. Our regular turnaround time is 10 business days for a new set. Other brands out there, they usually start at 5 to 6 weeks, and a repair team is really on it, really good. We're trying to get it out back to people's ears because we know everybody's trying to use them. Especially church people, we use them weekly, so it's very important.
Yeah. I think service is a big deal because, you're putting it in your ear and taking it out all the time. It's just going to break. Things are going to break. But if you've ever seen the Ultimate Ear brand, I've actually held them in my hand before. They're built really solid, really nice. They come with some excellent features. You mentioned the multiple driver thing, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. But just the service piece of Ultimate Ears is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because the way you use them and the way a worship team tends to abuse them, you want to have service kind of there ready to go. But on the driver thing, it's like the number one question I get asked. Multiple drivers, like I've got to have 8,000 drivers in my ear in order for this to sound good. Just talk about that just for just a minute or two on multiple drivers and number one, how it makes a difference in your ears.
Yeah, that is also. I also get asked the question a lot. So
And now you can get what, 23 and a half drivers in an ear. I mean, it's crazy.
so the most we have is actually the first in the industry. We have 21 drivers. Is the UE Premier, and it was released last year in 2023 at NAM. Uh, and it's pretty amazing. Well, yeah, let me talk a little bit about the driver. So I'm gonna try to dumb down a little bit the answer so everybody can follow and understand what drivers are, right? Because sometimes we say, oh, this one has this many drivers, and people have no idea what that actually is. So drivers are basically speakers. They are very small micro speakers that are built to deliver sound. So, so for example, imagine this is a speaker, and I am pushing some sound out of this speaker, and it sounds okay. You can hear, things, and then I decide to add another speaker, which is a different color, as you can see. I just added a different speaker over here, and I put them together, and I'm pushing the same sound that was playing. Well, because now I have two speakers, what I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna probably have to turn down a little bit of the volume because I have two speakers trying to push the same amount of sound. And also, you can divide the frequencies that they are. Let's say this speaker can actually deliver a better clarity, crisp sound, which is the highs or mids. And this one is responsible for more like low end. So you kind of divide, it don't necessarily, it depends on how many speakers start adding, you can start dividing those frequencies and say, hey, you're responsible for this frequency here. This is your job, and this is your job. And then when you do that, it allows the sound to have a lot more depth and definition. But that brings us to other things as well. It's not just about of how many speakers. Uh, I love the dual driver that we have. It's the intro model that we have, the UE5. It is actually the oldest sound signature that we have in our line. Jerry did it like way back then. It's been 20 plus years, almost, I believe, probably 25 years that it's been in line, and it's still there, and we still use it. It's great. It sounds really good. Now, if you want to add a little more detail here and there, you're going to start adding new drivers to hear a little more definition. Now, people want to know, but what should I get if I want to hear? I play the keyboard. Which one should I get? And a lot of people, including all the in-ear brands, they try to market to musicians, saying, "Oh, if you are a keyboard player, you should get this one. If you're a guitar player, you should get this one. If you're a bass player, you should get this one." Which is probably a good guesstimation of how that works, but not really very musical, in my opinion, because we all have different way of interpreting frequency. So if I tell you you have to have this one because this one is the best one, that is probably the best one for how I hear, for how I like to hear, and how I interpret. And even with age, you start losing some frequencies, so it's not always the same for everybody. But uh, the best scenario is when, if you can meet with me, for example, I'll have all the demos, and you will sit down and listen and see which one works for you better sonically. That is the best scenario. That is not always the case because people live all over the country, all over the world. I help people all over the world get in-ear monitors. So, but what I try to do, I've been working with Ultimate Ear since 2013. It's been basically 11 years. It was May of 2013. And so it's been a minute. So I have a lot of experience. I'm also a musician, producer, worship pastor. So I understand music in a different way. So I try to understand what people are telling me, what are their needs in terms of what they want to hear. And then when I ask the question, "Hey, what would you like to hear on your what kind of frequencies do you love?" People want to tell me what they want in their mix. And I always tell them, "Well, you can buy any of the models and then mix that way." Because mixing, it's something that you can learn how to do it in any sound signature. Now, to make it sound good and in the way that is pleasing your ears, that has to do with the sound signature. Is it warm in the mids? Is that what you're looking for? Is that gives you a little bit of a low end because you want to feel the music? So that's what drivers do. The more drivers don't necessarily mean better. It means more expensive. That's for sure.
You've sold me. I want to move forward. How does our audience get in touch with you so that they can buy an Ultimate Ear?
Well, I'm always available. You can go to myinears.com, www.myinears.com, or hit me out on Instagram as well. It's going to be at myinears. And it's usually very easy to get in touch with me. There is a chat on the website that you can start writing there, and I will be able to respond to you promptly. I love helping people understand, educating people on how to properly use in-ear monitors, and make sure that you have not only a good sound signature, but you have a proper mix and a proper understanding of how to use the what you invested on.
Yeah, so that website again, everybody, is myinears.com. And if you can't tell, Tiago walks you through the process. Part of that service and support of Ultimate Ears, he makes sure that you get the right in-ear for your need. And you don't necessarily need the 21 driver in-ear system. He will make sure it fits who you are. And, if you're a singer, a bass player, a keyboard player, they walk you through that and make sure that you get the right system for you. Again, that website, myinears.com.